Welcome to Be an Encourager podcast, where real stories of transformation, faith, and redemption come to life. I'm your host, Claribel Coreano. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome an incredible guest to the show, Russell Harvey, widely known as the Resilience Coach. Russell is a dynamic leadership coach, facilitator, speaker, managing director, and podcaster with over 20 years of experience in leadership and organizational development. For nearly 2 decades, he specialized in resilience, helping individuals and organizations thrive amid uncertainty. Passionate about impacting 100,000 lives by 2025, Russell has already reached more than 78,000 people through his coaching, workshops, and talks. His engaging, empathetic, and practical approach helps clients rediscover the confidence, clarity, and passion. He's worked with major organizations including NHS, BT, the Co-operative Group, the Great Ormond Street Hospital. Beyond his corporate work, Russell also gives back as chair of governors at a local primary school and a volunteer with Leeds Young Authors, running confidence and public speaking workshops for students. With a wealth of expertise and a heart for empowering others, Russell brings a unique blend of insight, authenticity, and joy to every conversation. Again, join me in welcoming Russell Harvey. So, Russell, you're known as a resilient coach. For listeners who might still associate resilience with bouncing back, how do you define true resilience? And what are some of the continuous misconceptions about it?
Thank you, Claribel. Hello to everybody listening. So I define resilience as springing forward with learning. Springing forward with learning, which I appreciate is a simple reframe of bouncing back. However, when you apply it, it's quite different. So I've noticed that one of the reasons I'm not a fan of bouncing back as terminology is that many people believe that they're being resilient when they face into a challenge, and then they say to themselves, right, that challenge is over. I'll now bounce back. I'll go back to how I was before this situation happens. And I'm standing there or sitting there and going, well, you can't go backwards. We just can't. Our brains can't go backwards. We can only learn from life's experiences. So the resilient individual springs forward with learning, and they do that by asking themselves 3 questions on a regular basis, which are, what have I been doing behaviorally recently that's been serving me well? What have I been doing behaviorally recently that's not been serving me well? And how can I do more? The answer to the first question in terms of useful, helpful behaviors. And misconceptions can often the time is that if people believe they are solely being resilient by just keeping going regardless. So when we are overwhelmed and keeping going, yes, there's an element of resiliency to that. However, the more resilient individual will actually pause. They'll stop. They'll understand that they are in this hamster wheel, in this situation. And then actually they'll find ways to do things differently, essentially. Because resilience is hugely about adaptability, doing things differently. So if you're just keeping going regardless, doing more of the same, you're not being resilient, essentially. You might have to do something to get through. So, spring forward with learning, and be careful that you are solely believing you're being resilient by just keeping going regardless, because that's only occasionally.
That's a great explanation, because I always saw it like that. If you don't learn your lesson while you're surviving, you cannot just survive. You have to thrive and apply, like you said, apply the lessons. And what are you going to change? Because we all have to change in order for things to be different. So
Perfect.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
No, it's all good. Yeah, good. And it's really interesting, those three words as well of, I know you mentioned two, but there's surviving, coping and thriving. We talk about this in this space. So for me, surviving is hanging on by our fingernails. Literally, I'm
Hmm.
just coping is some variation of I'm okay. It's like how I am okay. That can be the coping, but it could be coping. I'm okay, but I'm actually, do you know what? I'm just about to tip over into surviving. It's not going to be good.
Hmm.
Or it could be I'm okay coping, but I actually, do you know what? I think I might be about to tip over into thriving in a really good place. So the resilient individual engages with growing their personal resilience so that most of the time, even if there's a lot of things going on, they'll be thriving, which is, yeah, there's a lot going on and I'm good. Essentially, that's
Hmm.
the thriving piece.
So from what I heard you say, it's almost like a process. Like there's times that you're gonna have to like you will go back, but and then restart again and learn. Is that what I heard?
Well, yeah. So it's not about living in a perfect world because we don't, and resilient
Hmm.
people understand that life is not fair. They accept with that with good grace. But when an individual chooses to engage with growing their resilience, which we'll talk more about today, then they give themselves the best chance to be in thriving more often, more of the time, essentially,
Hmm.
and can find strategies, tips, tools, techniques, behaviors, approaches to potentially maintain being in this place. So you don't necessarily want them to be going backwards and forwards between surviving and thriving. You want to be able to stay in
Hmm.
thriving as much as humanly possible, with understanding that to do that it can be difficult, essentially.
Got it. Now I understand it better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So the heart of coaching for resilience. In your experience, coaching leaders in teams, what are some of the largest barriers people face when trying to build resilience? And how does coaching help them move through those challenges? And also for individuals, I don't know if you do individuals as well.
Yes, individuals, teams, whole organizations. Claribel is, it's like, what does it mean to be a resilient leader, personally resilient, resilient teams, resilient organizations? It's all of that. So barriers wise, it'll be the individual's starting point, because if somebody's going to engage with a coach, it's that whole conversation about how do they view coaching? How do they view personal development? Do they see that as a good thing, or do they see it as actually, do you know what? It's a deficit thing. There's something wrong with me. Then it's about, the barriers are how well is the individual going to engage in the process, the
Hmm.
conversations, the openness, the curiosity. So resilience builds openness and curiosity and learning. So
Hmm.
if you have a desire to do that, you need to make the first step, essentially. So the barriers are always about what's an individual's or a team's starting point on this whole thing about actually, I've got to change. I've got to adapt, and I am willing to do so, or I need to hear some things before I'll do it. And a lot of the time, we don't quite know where we're going to end up until we've started. So when people sort of say, but tell me what will be different, and I'll go, well, I don't know. You don't know, but we need to
Hmm.
explore first what you would like to be different, better for you. If we can clarify that, then we've got something to go at, essentially.
That's great. And I want to ask you another question. Can you give us an example of 3 or 4 traits of a resilient leaders?
Yes, absolutely. So I can give you loads, but so I'll do a little, just an additional caveat. So if anybody ever in general, Claribel, asked me the question, so how do I build my resilience, Russell?
Mhm.
The answer is that there's a resilience wheel. It's on my website. It's built upon research, and there are 7 aspects to it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So when an individual chooses to
Mhm.
engage with their personal resilience and also their leadership resilience, the resilience wheel with 7 bits on it is the way to do it. And now, to answer your question about what 3 things does a resilient leader need to do, I've got these. These are when you come on my resilient leader program. This is what I talk about. So a resilient leader delegates brilliantly to their team based upon their team's strengths and removes the blockages to their people performing. So that's one thing that a resilient leader is responsible for. Yeah. Delegate brilliantly and remove blockages to people performing. The other thing that they're responsible for is to develop, grow, and nurture a resilient team against the resilience wheel. And the third thing that they're responsible for is personal growth around resilience. Those are three things that a resilient leader needs to do and is responsible for and should be doing, essentially.
Those are great. Thank you for sharing those. Now we're going to be speaking about resilience in a changing world. We live in a time of constant uncertainty, pressure, both personally, professionally. How can individuals stay grounded emotionally, balanced when everything around them feels like unpredictable?
Yeah, so it's not going to be one thing. So it's going to be different for each individual. So this is an element where potentially I'm doing a little bit of repeating myself, but it's to hone the point. It's back to this resilience wheel that I've referred to, because part of, what does it mean to be resilient actually is answering the question of what does it mean to be human? Okay, so that's not a one size fits all. That's all about each individual, essentially. However, when an individual makes the decision, makes the choice to engage with their resilience wheel and nurture and grow all 7 little bits of it, and they've got positive impacts upon it, then that's how they will actually face into a very challenging world. So my specialism is the resilience piece, and it's an acronym of VUCA, VUCA. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and the fact that the world is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And to face into it, you need vision, understanding, clarity, and agility, which are 8 buzzwords, but when you go behind the scenes of them, there's loads in there, and they link to resilience. However, one practical tip is that if an individual is feeling all at sea, or they feel that the rug has been pulled from underneath them, and they feel like everything's changed or there's too much change, then one of the things that has worked quite a lot of the time for a lot of clients is I go, okay, it's like if you feel that's happening, we now need to just pause and think about everything that stayed the same. Okay, so if you feel that rug's been pulled from underneath you and you feel like you're inside a washing machine and you're spinning around, it's like, right, let's take a moment to ground ourselves. Let's think about anything and everything in your whole life that has stayed the same, which is absolutely as it's always been. So your values, your strengths, your skills, your personality, the things that you've achieved, the roof over your head, family members, friends, just what is real and has stayed the same. And then that gives people sometimes a sense of grounding, literally their feet on the ground, and go, okay, I've got some solidity to what's going on for me at this moment in time. And if people are then really feeling like totally overwhelmed, it's like actually spend some time and just start to talk about and discuss, make a list or a mind map of everything that has stayed the same about who you are and your experiences. And that sometimes grounds people.
So focusing on the things that are stable, so it can bring some comfort to the person that even though all these things are happening, look, you are stable, you have this, and you're doing good. Basically, it's like almost reassuring yourself that things will get better.
Absolutely.
You have this stability. So that's great. That's a good way to look at it. So now we're going to be talking about from setback to strength. Can you share a story, either from your work or personal journey, where resilience transformed a difficult situation into a moment of growth or renewed purpose?
Yeah. So there's probably, there's a few. So in my lifetime, I've been made redundant 6 times, essentially, from corporate roles. A couple of them sort of I engineered or was aware might happen, and others were a complete surprise, essentially. And each one of those gave me an opportunity to really reflect upon who I am as a person, what types of roles I wanted to do, what was important to me, and where was I trying to get to in my career. And it was the 6th one of the redundancy where it all aligned, essentially. All of these reflections, all of these learnings, all of these sort of, oh, I've got to try again and find a job role and find it in the right place, essentially. So the sixth one was my last permanent role at an organisation called the Co-op Group, which is there's co-ops all around the world, and I love the co-op and its value system. And however, that was the birthplace of the resilience coach, essentially. So when I knew that at some stage I was more than likely going to leave the co-op, the experience had been at the co-op, but they had been through some extreme challenges as a business. And I was there with a team of others supporting the senior leaders face into this VUCA world and needing resiliency skills. But I knew my time might be coming to an end in the organization. Then it felt right. My head, my heart, and my gut were in alignment that now is the time to set up my own business. And that was 10 and a bit years ago, essentially. So that was the birthplace of the resilience coach. And when I was doing some navel gazing about what's my USP as a business, when I left the co-op, it's like, you know what? I am the resilience coach. That's what I've been doing, supporting leaders about how to lead themselves and others through, really crazy times. And so I've used the experiences over the last 10 years, essentially. So a lot of it was about being all of those redundancies, a number of different lessons over and over again, other opportunities to reflect, and they all aligned at that moment in time.
That's a great story you just shared. For anyone that's thinking of starting their business to, do that self-awareness, right? You mentioned that introspection, self-awareness, and you realize, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to go for it, and this is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, and on the back of that, so one of the dimensions on the resilience wheel is having a purpose. So about 8 years ago, in terms of role modeling, my purpose wasn't as clearly defined as it could be. So 8 years ago, my purpose was that by the year 2025, I wanted to positively affect 100,000 people. And so that was about everywhere I went, everything that I did was to actually give leaders, line managers, humans, their light bulb moments, their learning moments, their resiliency moments, essentially. And in July of this year, I achieved it. The 100,000 number was hit, essentially.
That's great.
Yeah. So now I'm in the purpose of finding my latest purpose. And at this moment in time, which I need to add some detail to it, but it's essentially using resiliency to support businesses be a force for good.
That is great.
That's my purpose this moment in time. It needs some meat and bones on it, and I'm just writing some blogs on it now. But that's it. So a resilient individual has a purpose. So had mine, updated it, and business is a force for good.
Yes, you mentioned you set a goal, and you met that goal because you set it.
Well, so the purpose is, so goals help you achieve your purpose, essentially. Yes. But I appreciate in my description of my purpose, there is some goal element to it. And hand on heart, Claribel, that was probably more for marketing reasons. People said you need to put a number to it, Russell. Okay. And I go, yeah, okay. All right. It's about the positivity effect and the light bulb and the learning moments. But in general, a purpose is more overarching. It's about a whole value system and a lifestyle choice, essentially.
Thank you for elaborating on that. So now we're going to talk about building a resilient mindset.
Yes.
And so for our listeners who are ready to strengthen their resilience today, what are 3 practical steps or daily habits that they can start practicing to become more adaptive, hopeful, and confident in life's challenges?
Yeah, so remember there's 7 on the resilience wheel, but we'll go with 3 essentially now. So I think really taking a strengths-based approach. So really genuinely understanding what your natural energizers are. So I think in the USA, there's Strengths Finder. In the UK, we use StrengthScope. So there's a psychometric and there are 24 strengths on there. And we can't be energized by all 24. You have a significant 7 and a top 3. So my top 3 strengths are collaboration, strategic mindedness, and developing others. So I am at my best when I can do big picture together with somebody else and coach them along the way. That's me, highly energized. And when you play to your strengths, you build natural resilience and natural confidence. So the practical application of that for everybody that's listening and watching now is for them to really understand on a day-to-day basis in the job role that they're doing or the life that they're in, actually, where are they enthused? When are they energized? When are they in flow? When they're actually feeling like time's not passing and actually they had a really great time? It'll probably be because they were playing to their strengths. So one practical tip is to do that. Another practical tip is what I've talked about already, is that reflective practice, springing forward with learning about the behaviors that I've been doing recently. They've been serving me well, getting me into thrive. The behaviors I've been doing that aren't getting me to thrive, and how do I do more of the first? And then because adaptability is has got some sort of extra weight to it, in terms of resilience building, it's a word that's thrown around all of the time. So it's openness to change. But research shows that those individuals that spend a third of their time engaging with being open to change, they give themselves a chance of getting into thrive. So for everybody that's listening now, it's like, what does that mean to them? Like a third of your time, just like, I'll be open, I'll be curious, I'll go to different places, I'll try out different things. I'll have conversations with different individuals about that I wouldn't normally talk to, just any way, shape or form that you can just do something slightly different. And that grows your adaptability, essentially.
That's awesome. That's great. It's almost like a catalyst. When you decide to be open for change, it's a catalyst to bring in more open doors. Now, I have a question for you. I did the Strength Finders many years ago. I think I have to do it again.
Okay.
My question is, can those strengths change over time? Like people go through phases in life and, different careers and things like that. Can those strengths change? So
the short answer is no, but then there's a few there's a few caveats around that. So when all those individuals that create psychometrics, they're cleverer than I am, they do it in such a way to go, this is you. We answer the questions well enough. We ask them in a number of different ways that it should tease out the real you, essentially. And the only sort of add on to that is that if somebody takes their psychometric at a time when their personality is under high stress, then there's sometimes that they can take it later in life where their personality is under less stress, and actually the more authentic or the more real version of them will come through. So sometimes if you've personality has really been under stress, it'll have driven some behaviors or driven a belief that you're a particular way, then sometimes people will say, I took it a while ago and I took it again and it was quite different. And a lot of the time when you explore that, you understand that there was quite a bit of stuff going on, and that first time that they took it. But the short answer is no, it doesn't change if you've answered the questions well enough.
I see. But let's say, for instance, there won't be no change in added strength, like if they grow?
No, because so this is the principle around the strengths-based approach. So it really it's the volume of my clients so we'll do their strength scope with them, and their eyes will go to their scoring and they'll look at the lengths of the bars where they've got least energy for them. And they go, I suppose, Russell, my homework is to spend time developing this non-strength. And I went, no, why would I ask you to do that? And I'll go, do you enjoy doing this thing that's a non-strength? They go, no, I hate it. And go, well, why would I ask you to spend loads of time doing something that you hate doing? The principle of a strengths-based approach is to do more of the thing that you love doing, because that's you at your best, essentially, and it builds natural resilience and natural confidence. We put strategies in place for when you will have to do those that you're energized by the least, because you can still do them, but we
Mhm.
want to cultivate in our environment where you can play to your strengths, essentially.
That makes a lot of sense. You answer my question.
Thank you.
Can you discuss strategies for helping individuals build resilience and manage stress in their lives, in their personal and professional lives, like how they can balance them both?
That's in terms of personal and professional life. So I'm shifting away from the language of work-life balance because I've took this from somebody else whose name I've completely forgotten. So I'm attributing this to a conversation with somebody else, and I apologize, I've forgotten the name. Because they talk about work-life harmony.
Mhm.
Okay. So our work and personal life it'll never be in balance, and we shouldn't strive to try and make it so because it'll cause us problems.
Mhm.
So what I mean by
Interesting.
that is
Mhm.
legitimately in our
Mhm.
lifetimes, there'll be legitimate moments when personal life is more important than work life. So we will be out of balance. And
Mhm.
that's fine. That's legitimate. And there'll be other times where actually, do you know what? I'm going to focus on my career and personal is going to take a bit of a back seat. So the trick is to understand it's about work-life harmony.
Mhm.
And it actually where it may go wrong for you is actually you're out is disharmonious, if that's the right language,
Mhm.
essentially. So you know for people that are listening, watching now, it's for you to for them to all to individually sort of decide what does a harmonious life look like, sound like, and feel like to me, and then actually put the steps in place to do that, and understand that actually the balance will always be out of whack. So don't even try
Mhm.
and strive for balance. Go for harmony.
For harmony. And so I have a question for you. Can you give us an example of how that would look like?
Oh, but so yeah. So if somebody's potentially earlier in their career,
Mhm.
then with lots of different caveats of we are trying hard with the whole sort of well-being approach not to do this, but earlier in our career we are happier to work longer hours,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
it's so because we're going to go actually, do you know what, no, I'm enjoying this, or I'm doing it for the reason, or I'm legitimately doing it because I know that I'm trying to get somewhere. Okay. And this does actually mean that I'm going to spend more time doing work things than actually doing
Mhm.
personal things. So that would be an example of it. And that's okay. As
Mhm.
long as you're okay doing it,
Mhm.
if you're feeling like actually, do you know what, I'm working all these longer hours and I'm putting extra effort in and it's not getting me anywhere, then that's a different situation, essentially.
That's a good example. Thank you. Now we're going to shift a bit to another topic.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you incorporate positive psychology and strengths-based approach into your coaching sessions?
Yeah. So like I've said, with the vast majority of my clients, we talk about they do the strength scope psychometric. So that
Mhm.
the strengths based approach is absolutely part of what I do because it's built on natural resilience, natural confidence, and confidence is one of the dimensions of the resilience wheel, those seven. So there's a bit of a double whammy there. So
Mhm.
it's just there all of the time, essentially, the strengths based approach. When we're talking about their coaching outcomes where the team's trying to get to or the individual's trying to get to, it's like, right, how do we apply your strengths in this situation? Or if we understand that actually a strength that would be useful here is not one that you've got,
Mhm.
what are we going to do? What strategies are we going to put in place? How are we going to, compensate for that? And the whole positive psychology approach is also just informs everything that I do as well around um, exactly everything that's about. And what I also want to make sure that I get across is that I absolutely am not wanting ever to do toxic positivity or
Mm.
toxic resilience. Okay.
Can you give us an example of that?
I knew, yes,
Now that
I
you
was
mention it.
absolutely. So, my intention, my value system is that I do not want people to do the following. So, a lot of the
Mhm.
time, we have conversations, we ask people how they are, And hopefully someone will turn and say, oh, do you know what? I'm finding this situation a bit challenging. Or do you know what? I'm a little bit worried about this. If anybody at that moment in time literally goes, you just need to be positive and you just need to be resilient, that's toxic. That's gaslighting. It's tantamount to bullying. So please don't do it and don't say it. Okay. What we do is that we utilize all those components of the resilience wheel. We talk about them individually, collectively, the majority of the time, and that is building general resilience. And as a result of shifting away from toxic positivity, the other thing that I talk about is the word optimism instead of positivity. So the reason that I do that is that optimism is grounded in reality. Okay, so what we need to get better at as leaders of teams and as a society is to have optimistic conversations, which are grounded in reality. So we talk well about the things that are worrying and concern us and the size and the scale of the challenge. We have to face the challenge, talk about it well, using empathy, emotional intelligence, and compassion. And then what's also grounded in reality is our current strengths, skills, capabilities, behaviors, levels of resilience, experiences, mindset, attitude. That is our current reality as well. So you talk about the challenge concerns and talk about strengths, skills, and behaviors. And when you start to raise those up a little bit more, humans then start to feel hopeful and they start to feel positive. So my question for people that, listening, watching now and clients they work with is, how optimistic are you right now? And then they either say, I am or I'm not. Because some clients come to me and say, my word, Russell, this is the size and the scale of the challenge at the moment. And I go, okay. And how optimistic are you? And sometimes they go, I still am for all these reasons. Other times they go, no, I'm not actually. The hope has gone. And go, right, we need to find ways to rekindle that hope.
That's a great example, elaboration, and it just gave me a lot of insight. Thank you for sharing that. Now, we have 10 minutes left, and I want to ask you the last question. And what do you foresee and new emergent leaders will need to become successful leaders in their fields, especially how things are evolving and constantly changing in our society, and with technology becoming more of a more favorable force? What will be 3 recommendations or encouragement tips that you would like to share to help emergent leaders and individuals who may be struggling in the workforce?
Yeah. So it's like, make the decision to build and grow and nurture your resilience around the resilience wheel. That's just like, and then you've got to work out what the value and benefit to you will be. So resilient individuals are more open, they're more curious, they're more confident, they become better at making decisions, they become better at critical thinking, even though it's one of the 24 strengths. They might not be naturally energized by it. If you've got a purpose, essentially that's like a guiding light that drives you. So, one practical tip is make the decision, make the choice, because you see the value and the benefit to you of engaging and nurturing and growing your resilience wheel, because then you will become a thriving individual. The other thing then in the, the world that we're in, the technological world that we're in, so if we refer to good old artificial intelligence, okay? So if we talk about that right now, so my opinion is, so I know we can't do this, my opinion is that before we engage with artificial intelligence, emerging leaders need to really understand what it means to be human first.
That's a good point.
Okay. So, because we talk about AI human augmentation, all right? So I'm being, the analogy is, if you imagine you've got a suite of human beings as a team, and if you want to add AI to it as a team member, before you do that in a perfect world, and I don't really live in one, the team needs to really understand how resilient they are now around the high-performing resilient team. Understand what that means and how closely they currently, meet that benchmark of a high-performing resilient team on a human level amongst themselves. And then you can add AI into that situation and you'll be able to complement each other. You'll be able to augment each other. Okay. So I know you can't necessarily do it that way. So we'll do it alongside, essentially, because AI is here, but actually we understand what it means to be human. And my company is a member of a think tank, a research tank around all things learning and development called the Oxford Review. And they did a series on artificial intelligence recently. And so some of the takeaways from that is just remember, AI doesn't think and AI doesn't learn. It gives us the perception that that's what it's doing, but it isn't. Okay. And I know some people might be listening now and go, yeah, but what about this? And what about that? I just went, if you take human learning and human thinking and AI learning, they are so far apart at this moment in time that they don't think that's and therefore the skill that all emerging leaders need to do is they need to understand what AI literacy is, how well they are doing that. So AI literacy is how well do you understand what AI is and isn't doing and can and can't do, and the assumptions that you are making about that. So to help yourselves, emerging leaders need to become AI literate, which is understanding how it works, essentially. Yeah, that's what I'll say for now.
That's very important that what you mentioned, that they should get trained and learn what it is actually, because it doesn't have empathy. So you have to remember that and know that the individuals that are going to be working with this tool, because it's a tool, that remember your humanity, that you don't adapt to the way that the technology is acting or saying or giving you answers. So however it's helping, you don't become that. It's a tool that you use to, help you with your performance, your things that you need for your, to do your job, but not.
It's an amazing tool. It's absolutely incredible what it can do.
It
It's phenomenal. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Just be mindful what you are projecting onto it.
Yes, that's also very important. Thank you. So one last question for you. What would be one takeaway that you want to leave the listeners with? And it can be a quote, it can be the words of encouragement, whatever you feel like sharing with us.
Yeah, let's just remind ourselves of defining resilience as springing forward with learning. So how are you going to do that? That's what I will leave the listeners with. Springing forward with learning.
Awesome. Thank you. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be in this podcast, be an encourager podcast. I appreciate your time in answering all those questions and that great information that you share with us. And glad to have you. Have a wonderful day.